Salutations, my Garmlings! Did you guys know that Kerrigan recently broke the record for being the oldest player at a Counter-Strike major? Yes, it's true. Uncle was 35 years, 7 months, and 10 days old. Now, this is a pretty generational achievement, especially when you consider Buddy made it all the way to the final. You know, at this point, he's like on the older side of even most coaches in the scene, I feel like. And at this point, it looks like he's just going to continue to break this record. Surely he's going to play at Cologne, and maybe even again this year at Singapore. At this point, the odds are looking like they're actually favoring him to break the record at Singapore later this year. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe at this point, Buddy just plays until 2030. Anyways, this achievement led me to asking one question. Who is the oldest player to have ever been a rookie at a Counter-Strike major? What is the limit on how old you can be before you finally reach the pinnacle of Counter-Strike tournaments? Sure, Kerrigan is the oldest now, but Buddy was attending majors in 1.6 at like 21. He attended his first ever Valve-sponsored major at DreamHack Winter 2013 at 23. And I would say most players probably average out at around, you know, early 20s is when they first debut at a major. Sure, you have some crackheads out there that are debuting at 17 like Donk, but I'd say it averages out around early 20s. But what if you don't get to attend a major at 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25? Is it over for you? Is it, you know, I missed the train, I missed the bus moment? Well, Garmlings, according to my findings today, if you are older than 26, you absolutely have not missed this train, especially in CS2. Recently, we've had a renaissance of older players making their debuts. Maka from 3D Max was 27 when he first played at Shanghai. Recently, Mongol stand-in Controles played at Austin with Chungus Warriors right after he turned 28. But well, from what I found, 28 for the most part seemed to kind of be the cutoff. If you're older than 28, you're probably not going to debut at a major, or at least you are extremely unlikely, except for a few rare cases. Armlings, do you see that over there? Bro, what is that? It's been staring at me for hours. Ah! Oh, no worries. It's just that new knife that I bought from today's sponsor, SkinsMonkey. SkinsMonkey is an instant trading site with an incredibly large selection of skins, low commission, and an easy search filter system. Buying or trading your skins has never been easier. And if you use my link today, you can get up to $5 completely free. They also have daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways on their freebies tab, along with a 35% deposit bonus if you use code Garmour. If you want to check out SkinsMonkey, scan the QR code or hit the link below. Thank you to them for sponsoring, and back to the video. Believe it or not, back in 2015, the best Finnish team in the world was 3D Max. They weren't anything crazy, but they were just good enough to squeak into the ESL 1 Katowice major. The team included Disturbed, Karn, Stonde, Zart, and the 29-year-old Natu, who at the time became the oldest major rookie in Counter-Strike history. Now, he is kind of a strange case because while Buddy was a major rookie, he had been playing the game for the past 14 years. His first Liquipedia-listed tournament was World Cyber Games 2001, and he'd eventually hit his 1.6 peak in 2007, winning 2 S-tier tournaments and a B-tier tournament with 69 degrees north, negative 28 degrees east, and eventually end his time in the game with a 0.99 rating. The start of CSGO would not be kind to him though, as he'd bounce from team to team, posting a 0.98 in 2012, a 0.85 in 2013, and a 0.87 in 2014. In 2014, he'd go on to join 3D Max, and they were a fine team, but you know, nothing crazy, and just barely squeaked into the ESL 1 Katowice major, beating out Mouse in the LAN qualifier for the last spot. Natu had played in quite a few 1.6 majors, but this would be his first ever Valve sponsored one, and it would go pretty well for the teams he played. 3D Max would lose to TSM and VP, bombing out of the event in last place, and Natu would post a 0.6 rating. Shortly after this, 3D Max then announced the org was shutting down, and 2015 would be the last year of Natu's professional career. And as of today, he works as a marketing director for ENCE, and I do think he is still heavily involved in the Finnish scene. Natu's record of being 29 years, 10 months, and 5 days old when he played his first major honestly stood for quite a while. But then in CS2, like I said earlier, we'd have an old man renaissance. Natu's record should have been broken in 2024 at CS2's first major. The qualifier, or RMR, for this tournament had 2 groups. Group A included VP, G2, Na'Vi, FaZe, Eternal Fire, Saw, Fnatic, 3D Max, Falcons, NIP, and Koi to name a few. And Group B had teams like Mouse, Cloud9, Vitality, Spirit, Apex, ENCE, Heroic, Astralis, Gamer Legion, and OG. And the team we're worried about is one that I didn't list from Group A, and that's 9 Pandas, a full Russian team with old Na'Vi SkinsMonkey players Seized, Diladez, Clax, iDisbalance, and Glowing, who at the time of this RMR was 30 years, 2 months, and 8 days old. Around 4 months older than Natu when he made his first major. Glowing was not like Natu though. He hadn't been a veteran of the game that had a career in 1.6 and just didn't have success in Go. His first full year of playing tournaments was in 2018. During the past 6 years, he was just kind of stuck in tier 3 and tier 2, not really doing much, until he joined 9Pandas in mid-2023. This was a very interesting team. Seized had a ton of experience, having played in like the first 10 Valve-sponsored majors with Na'Vi, and well, then the next most experienced player was iDisbalance, who joined his first team in 2017 and played with Spirit for nearly 2 years from 2019 to 2021. Then Glowing, Diladez, and Clax were all relatively unknown Russian riflers who had kind of all been stuck in tier 2. The only main difference between them was the decade they were born in. Not only were Clax and Diladez early 2000s babies, while Glowing was an early 90s baby, Seized, who had played in the first ever Valve-sponsored major with Na'Vi at DreamHack Winter 2013, 11 years ago, was also younger than Glowing was. Anyways, 9Pandas would not make it out of Group A. It was just too stacked. But they would have a fairly strong performance, just losing in the 2-2 game to Amcall. And while they didn't make it out of this first RMR, their 2-3 finish was enough to get them into the last chance qualifier. This was a place where the 6-2-3 teams from Group A and Group B would all fight it out, and one of them would be able to get that last spot for the major. Immediately though, it looked like 9Pandas were gonna be cooked because they got the worst draw possible. The number 17 ranked team in the world, Astralis. Astralis being, well, Astralis kind of had to make this major. It would be a disaster if they didn't. But then 9Pandas 13-11 and 13-8'd them. A clean 2-0, and due to a magical Blue Cold system, 9Pandas would move directly to the final match. Here, they would need to play Gamer Legion, the team that had just made the finals of the last major. Except now, instead of their two best players in Shui and Ema, they have Snacks and Volt. Despite these downgrades, Snacks Glazers, don't even test me, okay? There wasn't even a chance this wasn't a downgrade during this time. Gamer Legion would win map 1 in OT, 16-14. And 9Pandas lost this map despite a glowing 1.4 rating. He kinda did everything he could. Our 30-year-old talent was trying his hardest to get himself and the boys to this major. This was everything that he had worked towards. It didn't matter if he was a few millennia older than the average pro. He knew he could still make his dreams come true. And this is where we would get hit with, actually that glowing 1.4 rating map 1 was not him doing everything he could, because Gramps still had a lot more juice left in the tank. Next map, Ancient, Glowing would have a 1.94 rating and 10 more kills than the next closest person to him on his team. Map 3, Nuke, Glowing would post 27 kills and a 1.91 rating with nearly his entire team going negative. 9Pandas would win 13-11. This boy, through sheer willpower, just dragged his team kicking and screaming to a major. Anyways, this is when the universe decided this storyline was just too good to be true, and well, it would step in. 9Pandas get disqualified because they couldn't secure the necessary visas for the event, and then they are replaced by Gamer Legion. Seized, the IGL, then went on to say this: "The major is over before it even begins. This whole fucking story gave me even more motivation to come back and destroy the next cycle. We will come back even stronger, even more mentally tough. I don't remember a more stressful month in my life than this. Now we need to distract ourselves and forget this horror. Thank you all for the support you've given us over these 2 days. We couldn't have done it without it. Thank you very much to everyone." Shortly after this, 9Pandas would then go on to bench Seized, and the rest of the roster would slowly collapse. Glowing was benched on November 27th, 2024, after 9Pandas failed to make it through the Shanghai RMR. And since then, he has not even gotten an opportunity to compete at another major. So, yeah, fellas, sometimes there isn't a happy ending to these stories. Fuck all of us, I guess, for thinking, you know, we'd get a happy ending here. Congrats, Natu, for keeping the record a little longer. Just kidding! Glowing never had a chance, actually, to break this record. I just wanted to include his tragic tale. Why, you might ask? It's because a team in his original RMR Group A had 2 uncles of its own that were gonna debut at Copenhagen. 2 players from the Portuguese team saw, Roman and Muterus. They were a mix of young and old talent, having star riflers Ujerks and Eras Dose, who were joined by young Upper Story, and then the 31-year-old IGL Muterus and the 31-year-old Roman. Muterus played his first Liquipedia listed tournament in 2009, 15 years before Copenhagen, and he had been trying to make the past couple majors with Saw saw, but failed in the RMRs every single time. Roman played his first tournament in 2010, and had actually played with Muterus since 2013, when they first joined Team Kick together. And besides some of 2017, Roman and Muterus had been together for 11 years at this point. And while them finally making a major and getting through the Copenhagen RMR, with this young core, it was kind of magical, man. It was a really cool story. Muterus was 31 years, 2 months, and 12 days old when Copenhagen started, and Roman was 31 years, 9 months, and 24 days old. So Roman would be the new oldest major rookie in Counter-Strike history. At the major, Saw would start the opening stage 2-0, and then sadly lose back-to-back BO3s and get knocked out 2-3. Here, Roman would be the lowest rated player on the team with a .86. Despite this, Saw would be a consistently pretty good team throughout a majority of this year, till contract issues arose with Eras Dose, and he would not play at the Shanghai RMR. Agile would sub in for him, and the team would miss out on the major, going 2-3 once again. Shortly after this, Roman would be benched, and as of today, he is retired. The Copenhagen major would be his first and last one in his career. Now, you'd think Roman's record would stand for quite a long time. It isn't very often you see someone over the age of 30 playing in their first major, but it would actually only be broken 3 majors later, at the Star Ladder Budapest major from a man named Maric. Maric is a very strange case though. He had been playing Counter-Strike since 2014 without much success. I mean, Buddy was just kind of in the depths of Tier 4 Asia, till he decided to pack it up and become the coach of Bengda Gaming in July of 2025. But then after a month, he joined Rare Adam as their assistant coach, but then Rare Adam's Opera Kaze transitioned into a coaching role while still being a part of the starting 5. They called him a player coach, but he actually wasn't playing at all. He was just a coach. And so now they'd be playing with their assistant coach Maric instead, which I guess isn't that bad because Maric was playing professionally just a few months ago. He hadn't been a coach for that long. Anyways, Rare Adam went 0-3 and Maric posted a .69 rating. But now we did have a new record holder for the oldest Counter-Strike major rookie. Or did we? You see, the record kind of changes depending on exactly what you count, because up to this point, I've only been including players that were actually players on the team going into these tournaments, but because of that, we have been completely overlooking something. Coaches that stand in for players with visa issues. Maric kind of blurred the lines between these two, like he was a coach, but he also was recently a player, and he kind of just was a player for the team now. I don't know, the whole situation is scuffed. But coaches typically are much older than the average players are. You know, they're normally like 30 years old at least. There are a couple that are like 28, 29, but most are in their 30s. So an incredibly easy way for this record to be broken would be a coach in their 30s needing to stand in because one of their players couldn't make it to the event. Even though they had technically coached at majors before this, they were never a player at one. So technically, if they would have to stand in and they had never played in a Valve-sponsored major before, that would be their rookie major. Now this gives us a few new players. Zonic stood in for Astralis at Cologne 2016 due to Dupree needing surgery, and he did have a ton of experience. He had coached at majors before. He was one of the best 1.6 players in the world, being ranked number 8 in 2010, and played in the finals of 4 1.6 majors, winning 1. He wasn't a rookie by any means, but this was technically his first ever Valve-sponsored major, and he debuted at 29 years, 11 months, and 8 days old, technically beating out Natu, so his record kind of only stood for a little over a year. Zonic would play 2 series with the team. The first was a 1-1 game against Dignitas, where Astralis would win 2-1, and then the quarterfinal against VP, where the team lost 0-2. Zonic would post a .71 rating. We also have Zeus from Team Liquid, who would need to stand in for Steel at the E-League Boston Major 2018. Here he posted a .75 rating and had a 96 entry rating. I mean, to be honest, if you're a coach standing in, you might as well just send yourself in first and tell the boys to trade you. I respect the fuck out of this play style. He was 30 years, 2 months, and 9 days old when this happened. We also have Maric, who needed to stand in for Envy at the E-League Boston Major, an evil major, I guess. Every team needed to stand in, because RPK would end up catching an illness. This was for the team's 1-2 game where they lost 12-16 against Quantum Bellator Fire, and Coach Maric at 31 years, 10 months, and 28 days old posted a .47 rating. But despite adding in, the coach standing in part, the record holder should still be Maric. But there is one man that blows all these little boys out of the water. At the E-League Boston Major, go-to Team Space Soldiers with Major, Zontares, Paz, Calyx, and Engine would barely miss the playoffs, going 2-3, losing in the 2-2 game to Mouse. Although this wasn't for nothing, this placement was good enough to get them a direct invite to the next major, but at this next major, the team would have some problems. Engine would have a horrible plague known as visa issues. And so in place of him, the team's 35 years, 2 months, and 20 days old coach Hardstyle would need to be the stand-in. Now, I'm gonna be honest, fellas, this record is gonna be a hard one to break. There is a chance in the future that a coach who is, 35, 36, 37, anywhere from 35 to 40 might have to stand in and play, and they could possibly break the record. I feel like our boys got this on lock for a while. Anyways, having to do with Hardstyle, he's kind of a mystery to me, because if you look, he has 0 teams played for on Wikipedia and 0 teams played on for HLTV. So it looks like he has never played a professional game in his entire life. I even went to the 1.6 database and I could not find anything. But according to this Reddit comment, Hardstyle is one of the best in Turkey during CS 1.5 to CS 1.6, yet he has low experience in CSGO since being a pro cannot count as a job in Turkey. He had to start working and stuff, but he attended many tournaments in his career and played against the best in Turkey at his prime at least. So I will take his word for it and say Buddy was a Turkish GOAT back in the day, but has not professionally played a game in over a decade, maybe even more at this point. I guess prior to this major, he did stand in for Space Soldiers once at an IEM Oakland qualifier, where he actually did post a decent 1.01 rating, but at the major, the story was not quite the same. Versus Rogue, Space Soldiers lost 16-10, and Hardstyle posted a .22 rating and went 3-22. Versus Complexity, Space Soldiers lost 16-11, and he posted a .55 rating, going 7-16. And against Renegades, Space Soldiers would lose in OT 19-15, with Hardstyle posting a .59 and going 10-26. Space Soldiers would go 0-3 in the Challenger stage, and Hardstyle would be the lowest rated player here, posting a .46 rating. Congratulations to Hardstyle on being the oldest major rookie in Counter-Strike history. As of today, he was coaching Fireflux until the team suspended operations in early 2026, and now he is teamless. So that's it for me today, fellas. First question, do you think Hardstyle counts as the oldest major rookie? I think this is going to be pretty divided. Let me know down below what you think. Should it be Maric, or should Maric not even count because of his situation? Is in your mind still the oldest major rookie Roman? Or is it our boy Hardstyle, who was 35 years young? Anyways, if you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe link if you enjoy the videos, and turn on notifications if you want to be notified. And I will see you guys later.